Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Classroom 101. This session is part of a free series of webinars offered every month or two by the Cohoes City School District in upstate New York. I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining me live today and anyone who's going to be watching the recording in the future. My name is Jen Sangiacomo, and I'm going to be your presenter. I'm the Instructional Technology Integration Specialist here at Cohoes. Use my email or my other accounts, and feel free to connect with me during the webinar or after the webinar. All the information for this session can be found at bit.ly/CCSD003. If for some reason bit.ly is blocked for you, then you can go to the direct link that you see here. This is the Cohoes Professional Learning webpage, and from there you can find this webinar as well as any others that have been done under the recorded trainings. I'm going to take us to this webinar site before we begin. I just want to point out a few resources for you on this page. This is the direct link, and the link is also in the YouTube description. Again, it's the bit.ly/CCSD003. And you'll see here, this is our live video right now, which is going to become the recorded video. So feel free to come back and watch it later if you missed something from today. You'll see the slideshow link for this session, as well as a lot of other resources here. And I just want to draw your attention to this third one, the Google Training Center for Classroom. This was just posted this month, and there are some amazing resources and tutorials on that site, and they're updating it pretty much daily, so something to check out. A little bit further down, you'll see the live chat session document. So if you're in this webinar live today, go ahead and open up that Google Doc. That's the way that we're going to communicate during this webinar. So if you have questions, any comments or suggestions, type them in there. I'm going to keep my eye on it throughout the webinar. If you see a question in the document that you have the answer to, or you want to share some resources, feel free to go in there and contribute to that. When the session ends, I'll update the document and answer any questions as needed. Below that, you'll see a link to the session evaluation. So if you don't mind taking a couple minutes after the webinar ends, it's about 4 questions, and I do value your feedback, and I do use that when planning out my future webinars. Right, and at the bottom here, you're going to find a link to a session quiz. That will be available when the live broadcast is finished. So give me a few minutes after the broadcast ends, and I will link in the quiz. This is going to allow you to earn a certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour, and you can turn that into your school for PD credit. All right, let's go back to today's agenda. And we're ready to get started with Google Classroom. So this is an introductory session. I want to give you just a brief overview of what Google Classroom is, how to use it, and I'll end the session with some tips and other resources that you might find useful. If you do have 2 devices, feel free to work along with me and explore Google Classroom on your own. And just remember, this webinar is being recorded, so you can always revisit it. So let's talk about what is Google Classroom. First, sharing and collaborating, it's one of the best features of Google Apps, and teachers and students can share resources, and students can submit their work electronically. Teachers and peers can both comment on student work. However, if teachers and students aren't really used to collaborating in this way, it can get pretty messy. You might get students, they might name their files incorrectly. They could share the file incorrectly to the wrong person or with the wrong setting. And then there's that whole shared with me folder in your drive that fills up with hundreds of shared files with no real way to organize them. And some teachers, they've improved this a little bit because they've used shared folders and they've had students turn work into those folders, but this can still take a lot of time to set up. You still get students naming files incorrectly and forgetting to put their files in the right folder. And sometimes students accidentally delete other students' files. So in 2014, Google launched Google Classroom. And the point was to help teachers save time, organize their classes, and just further improve communication with students. By definition, it's a blended learning platform that was developed by Google. And the goal is to help teachers create assignments, get them to their students, and then grade them, and do that in a paperless way. So as we go through today, you're going to see that Google Classroom really integrates some other Google apps. There's Google Drive. That's where assignments are created and distributed. Gmail handles the communication piece, and then Google Calendar will also handle the scheduling. So why would you want to use Classroom? One, it's an online site. It's private to you and your students. No one else can really look at that site. It does help communication and collaboration. You can post questions and discussions for the class. You can also message students directly, and students can comment on your assignments and ask questions. It's a great way to assign, collect, and grade your assignments just in one place. It's a huge time saver. You won't have to go back and forth between screens. You look at the assignment, then you go and enter your grade in the gradebook. Everything that you do in Classroom, it's all right there. You assign the work from Classroom, the work automatically comes back into the classroom, and then you grade the work right there, which is really nice. And another added perk, and you'll see this later, is if you give out a homework assignment and you collect it from your students, you do not know which students haven't turned their work in. But with Google Classroom, it instantly tells you who hasn't done it. So it's going to help with the management piece. Because it integrates Google Drive and Google Calendar, anytime that you create an assignment in Google Classroom, the app is going to do two things. One, will create a subfolder in your Classroom folder within Google Drive. So the minute you do set up a Google Classroom account, in your Google Drive, there will be a folder created for that class. And then any assignment you create, there will also be a folder for. All completed student assignments are going to populate in that folder. And then second, any assignment or discussion that you date will automatically be added to your Google Calendar as well as the student's Google Calendar. So if every student and teacher started using Classroom and it integrates with Calendar, there really wouldn't be a need for student agendas. Students wouldn't have to write anything down. It would just automatically go into the calendar. And mobile access is enabled. So both you and your students, you can use Classroom using the mobile app. So we're going to take a look at what Google Classroom looks like. This is the link that you would use to get to that website. There are several ways to get to Classroom. Some people have desktop icons, or you can also access it from the waffle, although for most people when they click the waffle, it's not in that first screen. So the best way to get to Google Classroom is go to your address bar and type in classroom.google.com. So I'm going to give you a second to do that. I'll leave that up here in case you missed it. And I'm going to click on this link right here. And this is the landing page for Google Classroom. If you're doing this along with me at home, you're going to notice that yours looks very similar. For each class, you can see whether you're the teacher or the student. So for this one, I am the teacher because it says I have two students. And this is a class that I am a student. This user happens to be the teacher. You'll see a couple things in here. When students log on or teachers log on to this site, it does say what assignments are coming up. It also has direct access to that folder in the Google Drive, which is pretty nice. You can rearrange the order of your classes by dragging and dropping. This is something that doesn't exist in Schoology. You can't drag and drop, but if I want this class to be over here, I can drag it and I can put my classes in order. All right, over here, the Classroom main menu, it's these three horizontal lines. If I click on that, I get a few options. One, I get access to my calendar, so I can see just dates from various Google Classrooms that I'm in, whether it's teacher or a student. And I also have access to all my Google Classrooms from this menu. So these are the ones this is the one I'm teaching, and this is the one I am a student in. And I have quick access to my class here. And also, if I click on to do, it'll show me what's coming up and what I still have to do. If I'm teaching, it will tell me what work I still need to review. Before we go any further, go down to settings and click on settings. There's one thing you're definitely going to want to do if you get started with Google Classroom, and that's going to be to turn your email notifications off. Maybe you want to leave them on at first, but if you don't like getting a lot of emails, this is a good tip to remember. Mine are turned off right now, but most of you have yours turned on. If I turn mine on, these are the type of email notifications that I'm going to see. So anytime a kid turns in work or posts a comment, I don't want to get an email for each one of those things, especially if I have 100 different kids. So I'm going to turn email notifications off, but feel free to play around with that. I'm going to go back to my classes. Again, these 3 horizontal lines and then classes. I'm going to come right back to that main screen. And the last feature you're really going to use on this homepage is this plus button. And when you press that button, you should see the option to join class and create class. If you only see the option to join class, you're going to need to contact your IT department and request teacher access. And for education accounts, this will be the case most likely, unless your IT has already approved it. But Classroom is also available for Gmail now too. So if you do have a Gmail account, you can create your own and test it out there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and let's create a class. The plus button and hit the create class. And let's fill out the information. When you create a class name it something specific. Consider including maybe your name in the class or the year of the class. If you put something generic like social studies, over time as the student moves through, they might have several social studies classes that might get confusing. If you put period 2 and another teacher uses period 2, again, it could get confusing. So just name it something specific. So I'm going to say, for me, U.S. History 11R. These are optional, but if you have multiple sections, maybe you can say period, class period. And this is also optional. But if I put in a subject, then Google will actually pick a theme for me. So when I create that class, you'll see that because it is a history class, Google has picked a background for me. All right, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to work in a class that I've already created. So now that your class is created, or maybe you're not working with me, you're just looking at my site with me, let's just take a quick tour and then we're going to swing back through and we're going to discuss some of these features in a little bit more depth. The Classroom site is very simple to navigate. You'll notice along the top you have 3 tabs. Right now we're in the Stream tab. The Stream tab is Google Classroom's home screen. This is where your posts appear. This is where you're going to create your assignments. So you can see this is a stream. All right. This is where I would create assignments. We definitely are going to revisit this. And I can also change my background if I'd like. I can select a theme if I'd like from Google's background images. I can also upload a picture. In the Students tab, this is the member management section. This would be where you would go to invite your students to join your class, set site permissions for your class, and also where you connect with parents and students. And finally, the About tab is where you'd add general class information like a course syllabus or some other important class documents that students will access frequently. You can also add a co-teacher to the class. Maybe you have a consultant, or maybe you're teaching within a team, and this would just give an additional adult permission to create and to review assignments. Also, what's really handy about this page is this gives you quick access to the Google Drive folder and the Google Calendar for that class. So let's go back and look at the stream page. All right. And again, we talked about this. Classroom will auto-detect a theme, but in this class banner, let me just show you this. I'm going to select theme. I can change the appearance of my classroom site. So these are the same backgrounds that you'll see in Google Forms. So if any of these fit what you're doing in class, feel free to use. I'm going to select that, and this is going to change my theme over. And once your classroom is set up, you can invite your students. There's a couple of different ways to do this. You're going to go to the Student tab, and you'll see that you have one option here to invite students, and then you have one option here to do a class code. So if you want to invite students using this button, you would just type in the email address for each student in your class. What would happen then is that students would get an email sent to their Gmail, and it would have a link, and actually it might even have a blue button that says join, and they would click on it and they would automatically enter your class. Now for kids, I don't know if this is necessarily the best option because not all kids are using their Gmail accounts. So this is going to be up to you, and it can also be pretty time consuming to enter all the email addresses for your students. So really what I like is option 2, which is using this class code. You'll see that at the top left. Mine is GD65H. Yours is going to be something else. If I click on this code, this little drop down arrow, I have the option to display it. And then I can make it full screen. So if I'm in class, what I would do is I would instruct students to go to classroom.google.com, and I would tell them to put in that code. And once they get on that landing page, they're going to hit the plus button and then join class, and then they'll enter your code. As each student joins your class, their name is going to appear in your stream. So if any of you want to join this class just to see what Google Classroom looks like from the student perspective, feel free to go ahead and join using this code, GD65H, and I also put that code in the live chat document in case you feel like checking it out. All right. A little warning about Google Classroom. You might want to wait to add students, because if a student changes classes, you would have to remove the student from one class, and then you'd have to invite them to the other class. At this point, there's no way to directly transfer them and their work to the other class. So if you remove a student from the class, they're going to keep all their files within their Google Drive, but once you add them to another one, their grades and their assignments won't carry over. So if you're in a district where students kind of come and go during the first few weeks, sometimes it's best to wait the first couple of weeks before you invite your students. All right. You're going to notice here that I have given permission in this particular class for students to post and comment. And I also have Guardian email summaries turned on. And you can customize both of these depending on your class. So I can change this option to students can only comment, or only teachers can post and comment. I wouldn't recommend using this option because if you're using Google Classroom, you want to have those discussions with kids, you want to interact and you want to collaborate. But maybe you don't want students posting discussions. That's a personal preference, and that's up to you and your class. Guardian email summaries is another pretty good feature of Classroom, and that's going to help you with your homeschool communication piece. Once you turn that on, any Guardian that you invite to your classroom is going to receive a weekly report, or actually they specify how often they want to receive a report. This report, it doesn't share the student grades though. It doesn't give them access to your class stream, but what it does do is it almost puts together a newsletter for them about your upcoming dates, and it also lets them know what assignments students are missing. So the best part about this is that Google does this on your behalf. They construct the newsletter, they send out the email to parents, and to use this, all you have to do is turn the Guardian summaries on, and then next to the student name, you would press invite guardians, and then you would have to paste in the parent email address. And if there's multiple parents, you can add in multiple email addresses. If you invite a parent and they accept, they get an email asking them if they'd like to see their students' progress in classroom, and they should be saying yes to that, and then they can customize how often they would like to get updates, and then you'll see the parent email address listed here. And once you add a parent to your class, they will also be added to every other Google Classroom that that child is a part of. So one other thing to know, if you remove a parent from your Google Classroom, you're going to be removing that parent from all the child's Google Classrooms. Right. There's some other options here. Right. If I click on a student name and I click on actions, I can email that student directly. I can also remove them. And again, by doing that, they're not going to lose any other work because it is stored in their Google Drive, but they will lose access to view your classroom. This would be ideal if students move out of the district. And then mute. This option will be used if students aren't using the comment feature responsibly. Maybe you want students to be able to post information and to comment on what you post, but sometimes students, they're not taking it seriously. So you have that conversation with the student and you can mute them temporarily so that they're unable to do that. A new feature of Classroom that just came out gives teachers the ability to monitor student work on an individual basis. So if I click on a student's name directly, it shows me a progress report for that student. And you'll note I can even filter that on the side and see what exactly is that student missing. So that's also pretty nice. And then I can email the student directly from this page if I want to give them a reminder. Let me just look at the About tab. Right, we talked about this, but if you're working with another teacher, you want to give another teacher access to your classroom. Same thing, press the invite button and type in the teacher's email. Adding materials, you can add anything from your computer, your Google Drive, you can add a video, any link to any information. This is great for work students need to access frequently. Course syllabus would be perfect, maybe a permission slip, class policies, anything like that along those lines. And we talked about this before. This is our direct access to our class drive folder. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll see it takes me to my Google Drive. And this folder is for the first assignment in my Google Classroom. This one's for my second one. And if I open one of these folders, it's going to show me every student's assignment. And now these are students that used to be in the class and I took them out, but their assignments they are still here. So this gives me quick access to see my students' assignments. So that's a pretty nice feature. And again, you're not creating these folders, you're not organizing these folders. Google Classroom does this for you. And within the student Google Drive, Google Classroom creates a folder for your class and puts all your assignments in that folder. So that's a nice feature for them as well. Also, if I go to click on Google Calendar, you're going to see that these are 2 assignments that are coming up. And if I scroll down here from mock class, it's orange, so it's color coded. So anything coming up will automatically go into my calendar. Again, I didn't put that in there. Google Classroom automatically put that in there. All right, let's go back to the Stream tab. Again, this is the main page of your Google Classroom, and it's probably where you're going to spend most of your time. This is where you create your assignments from, and this is also where you're going to access completed assignments. So how you create content is by just clicking right on this plus button in the bottom right, and you can see you have 4 options. Top one is reuse a post. We're not going to really talk about this feature today because if you are just getting started, you won't have any posts to reuse. Create a question. This is if you want to ask the class for their opinion or you want to start a class discussion. This can be graded. It maybe if you want, you don't have to have it be graded, but this is good for class communication. The third option is create an assignment, and we're going to talk about this more in depth in a minute here. And then there's also the create an announcement option. This is ungraded content. So this won't go in a calendar. And it wouldn't be anything you could grade. This is just if you want to send information out to your class. So I'm going to walk you through the how to create an assignment. So if you're following along, feel free to go ahead and try to create one with me. So when I show you that again in case I'm going through too quickly, click on this plus button and then create an assignment. And this does look like a pretty simple interface, but there are a lot of options here for you. All right, first, let's title your assignment. You can make up something if you want. I recommend numbering all your assignments. The reason why is you saw my Google Drive folder for this class. Google Drive didn't name my assignments 001, 002. I named them that, and the reason why I did that is so the folders would appear in order in my Google Drive. So I left off at 003, so my next assignment would be 004, and I'll just say it's vocab homework. You can add a description if you want. This would be a good place to add directions for your students. You should add a due date. The reason why you would add a due date, obviously, you want students to know when things are due, but also when you add a due date, that date will automatically go on your Google Calendar and the student's Google Calendar for the class. So I'm going to say, let's just say next Monday. And I can put in a time, but that's not really necessary. All right, this feature, selecting a topic. This allows students to sort that class stream by topic. So you can kind of see over here, it's a little bit ghosted out. I have topics like announcements, discussion, social studies. Your choice of topic, it could be the name of a unit, could be the marking period, or it could be an assignment type. Maybe your topic is homework or projects or tests. It's not required. It just allows you to have more organization because as the year goes on, let's say you're in April or May and the students are scrolling through the stream's going to get pretty long. But if you create a topic like quarter 4 or quarter 3, the student can just click on that particular topic to get what they need to get. So I'll just create a new topic and I will call it quarter 1. Right, and then down here again, you'll see the types of files that you can attach to your assignment. You can attach any file from your computer. You can attach Google Drive files because Google Classroom does integrate with Google Drive. You can attach YouTube videos and any web link. So it could be a link to a Google Doc, link to a website, anything you want the student to look at as a part of that assignment. So there are a lot of things you can do with this. All right, if you don't attach a file to this. Students will see options when they click on the assignment to create their own assignment, and they can choose how they'd like to create their assignment, which Google app they'd want to use, or they can just type in the comments section. Right. Google Classroom also gives you the ability to differentiate. So you'll see here, there's a drop-down arrow. It says all students. So typically when I do give an assignment, usually it does go out to all students, but Google Classroom gives you a really nice way to give assignments to certain students, but not others. So let's say that I was giving a reading passage and I have students of all different reading levels in my class. Maybe I have a passage that's at grade level, and I have a passage, maybe I use Newsy LA, and I have an article brought down a couple of levels for the students who struggle reading. What I could do is I could create two assignments. One assignment, the grade level assignment, I could pick the students from the list that can read at that level, and then I can differentiate and create a second assignment for the other students. Maybe if I'm doing test corrections, not all students in my class will need to do them. I can just pick out the students from this list that should see this assignment. And this is a feature that just was added, I believe, this past winter. All right. I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to keep this for all students, but let me show you what it looks like to add a Google Drive assignment. And you'll see that you can just sort through your drive right from here. And I'll just say, I'm just going to pick any assignment out of here. I can just search. I'll go to sample homework. Now, after you select something from Google Drive, you also have to select your setting. I recommend changing this and selecting the make a copy for each student. This gives each student their own version of the document that they can edit. They don't need to worry about opening up the assignment, going to File, then making a copy. You don't have to worry about them typing into your assignment. What this will do is it will automatically create a replica copy of the assignment in the student's Google Drive. Right, and then when you're done, and you'll notice, just like Google Apps does, everything you do, it does start to save this for you. I can press the blue assign button. I can also check out some options. I can just assign this assignment right now if I'm ready for it to go on the stream. I can save it if it's something I'm coming back to later, or I can schedule it. So if you're organized, you're working ahead, you don't want the students to see that assignment right now, but you have time right now to make it, you can schedule that it be posted on your wall at a future date. So I'm just going to go to assign, and you'll see. Takes a little bit, but here it is. And let me just show you that topics feature really quickly. Here's quarter one. So you can see my stream, it's pretty long, but if I just click on quarter one, it's just going to show me all the posts from that particular topic. Right, before we get into viewing the student assignments, I wanted to show you quickly how this would look on the student end. So again, if you joined, I don't see if anyone's joined my class at this point. No one's joined. So if you want to join, just see what it looks like, that's fine, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to go back to a class that I'm a student in. All right, and you can see that the student side looks pretty similar to the teacher side. Instead of students, it says classmates. On the About tab, it doesn't say, it tells me who the teacher is and gives me the email, but I can't add a teacher, right? This shows me my work. It's still pretty similar. But when I click on, I'm going to actually come to this one. When I come to this assignment and I open it, I do have options. So if the teacher didn't send a worksheet for me, I do have the option as a student to add my own Google Drive assignment or link or file, or it lets me choose which app I want to create with. I'm going to click on that. right? And what you'll notice is here comes the assignment, and this just popped up. So what's really nice is I can do the assignment right from here. As a student, I don't need to save the assignment to my device and rename it. All right, I'm just gonna really quickly answer this. Let's hope I get all these questions right because I was a social studies teacher. All right, when the student is done, they don't need to name it because notice the file has already been named for them. And then when they're ready to turn in, they don't need to go back to the website. They don't need to remember where they saved their file or what they named it and then attach it. All they're going to have to do is press this turn in button. It brings them right here and it just asks them, are you sure that you want to turn this in? And yes, they do. Now, if the student wants to fix something, they can unsubmit it because as soon as they turn that in, it now becomes the teacher's document and they can no longer edit it. They would have to come here and unsubmit it. So you wouldn't have to worry as a teacher about a student turning something in online and still being able to continue working on that. So it's a nice security feature there. All right. So you can see it does make it pretty easy for students to do their assignments and also turn them in. So that feature is a very nice one to manage the workflow. All right. So let me go back to my mock class and I want to show you how to view these assignments and grade them. All right, so this is a different class, but notice the assignment that I just gave. It does tell me for each assignment that 2 of the students have not done it. So I know no one's done this assignment yet, but that's fine because it's not due till August 21st. Here's an assignment that I made, and it's telling me 1 of the students have done it and someone else has not. All right, so I can review this work in a couple of ways. So sure, I can click on these 3 horizontal lines and I can go to my to-do list right here. And again, it gives me a nice little summary, right? Or probably the simplest way would be I can just click right here on the assignment title, or I can click right here on done. And what it's going to do is going to bring me to that assignment. And on the far right, you can see it tells me exactly who's done it and who has not done it. So I don't need to actually grade all the papers and put them in a grade book to figure out who doesn't have a grade and then track those students down before I even start grading it. I know who hasn't done the work. You're also going to see this thumbnail image for each student's work in the class. So you can see this student did actually type into a document. This student hasn't typed anything. And it tells me this one's done, this one is not done. And again, I can sort here if I just want to look at the assignments that are done. All right, and then this also gives me quick access to view that assignment within Google Drive if I'd like to. Right now, I only have 2 students in the class, so it's very manageable, so sorting isn't necessary, but this is a handy tool once you have 25 or 30 kids in a class. Let's see what else. Grading the assignments. Up here, you'll see the point total for the assignment. It's good to set that point total before you start grading. If you started off as a 100-point assignment and you want to change it down the road, it's going to affect the other grades that you've put in. You can decide to make an assignment ungraded if you'd like. It's up to you. So I can keep this as a 100-point assignment. A couple weeks ago, Google just added the option to put decimals in. So if you're someone who does 3.5s out of 5s, then now you can do that. So let me look at this assignment. When I click on it, it opens the student's assignment for me. And again, since it's all integrated in Google, I can as a teacher, I can make comments for that student. That doesn't need to be done. So if I want to highlight a section and I want to add some feedback for them, I can go ahead and do that. And when I return this document to the student, they're going to see those comments and they'll be able to address those comments. Once I view their assignment, I can just, close it down. And then I can say, what I want that student's grade to be. It's just very simple. Next to their name, put their assignment in. Right, and it's telling me I have not actually returned this to the student. If I don't return it, the student won't have the ability to edit the document or make changes. So I want to give that ownership back to them. So as soon as I get done grading, I can go return that. Now, if there's a bunch of projects or papers coming in and I don't want the student to be able to get their assignment back, I can wait to return it until I have most of the assignments in. So once I am ready to return, I just click on the students whose assignments I want to return, and I just press this handy dandy return button. If I want, I can return work to one student at a time. I can write a comment or a note. All right, maybe I can say, I left comments in your documents, please revise and turn in as a second draft. All right, but I'm going to return it, and that person, that particular student or group of students that I return will get an email with the document, and the ownership will be transferred back to them, and then they can view their comments. Right, and you'll notice that now down below, this has been filtered under a returned assignment. Okay, and it tells me right here that I've graded this already and it's been returned, so I don't need to go and look at that again. All right, and while Google does not have a gradebook feature yet, you can download all of your grades into a Google Sheet, or you can download it as a CSV file, which is a comma-separated value file. If you're a techie person, that CSV file could be uploaded to your online gradebook on another site. I will tell you this, the gradebook feature is something that Google is working on. They're probably working on it right now, and I'm hoping that we're going to see it down the road pretty soon. If I click on the sprocket right here, I have the option to copy all of these grades to Google Sheet. I can copy all grades. These top options would be all grades in my Google Classroom. This option is if I just want a list for this particular assignment. So let's say I copy all my grades into Google Sheets. And it might take a little bit, but I just want to show you what it does look like. It creates this nice gradebook for me. And then you can customize from there. All right, and it does include an average there. So I'm going to close that down. I just wanted to show you that what is capable. All right, and I'm going to return to the slideshow for a bit, talk about a couple tips, then I want to show you something pretty cool. All right, so let's just talk about how you might use Google Classroom. It's not just a classroom website. You can use it in a lot of different ways. These are some different ways I've seen teachers use it or heard about teachers using it. One, we talked about this, differentiate assignments and the options for students. So you can give different assignments to different students. You can customize assignments based on student ability. So you have that option in Google Classroom. You can have students post their work and they can get feedback, whether it be from other students or from yourself. And you have that discussion piece with them through the Google Docs comments. So you can start a class discussion. Maybe you don't want to use it to enter assignments, but you want them to be able to post questions and comment on class discussions. They can do that there as well. You could just use it as a site to post class resources. And I do realize that most of us do have Schoology, and that also is a place. But this is nice because everything within Google Drive integrates. So it's very easy to pull things from your Google Drive. Students don't need to log into multiple services. It's all right there. Again, very easy to use, as you saw. You can use it as a video reflection. Maybe you ask students to watch a particular video or read a particular document even, and then respond to that. And some teachers are using this to flip their classroom. That way they can do some more hands-on things in class. Right. This is the feature of Google Classroom that I really like, and I'll demo it with you. So if you're watching me live today and you'd like to partake, this is really cool. But I will need you to do a couple of things to get this up and running. The first thing that I would need you to do is I would need you to go back to the Google Classroom. All right. Go back right to that main screen, that classroom.google.com, and join my class. Right, and the code is GD65H. Now we have a few people watching right now. Now again, this is not necessary, and for anyone joining my class today, I will remove you from the class as soon as the session ends so you don't get any needless emails or notifications, but I just want you to see how this works. Okay, again, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you're going to classroom.google.com and hitting that plus button, join class, and then typing in the class code, GD65H. See if I can join my own class. See if anyone's joined yet. Don't see anyone yet. Oh, there's Carrie. Carrie, you might already know how to do this. I see in the live chat doc question, can you set up categories and percentages in the gradebook for averages? Yes, within the Google Sheet, you would be able to do a formula and average the grade. So you would just go into the average column, type equal AVG, I believe, or if you start typing an average, that'll come up, and you'd select the cells that you would want to average. So you would be able to do that. In terms of categories, I would have to check on that, but again, I'll revisit this after, and I'll put a response in there. All right, so Carrie's in here. The next thing you would have to do is you would have to go to the Chrome Web Store. And I search Chrome Web Store. And I want the Share to Classroom extension. And it's right here. I already have it, so it's green. If you don't have it, you'll see this button, this blue button that says Add to Chrome, and you will want to add that to Chrome. So it's already added. You might have to go through the prompts, but once you're done, you will see the icon right next to your address bar, the Share to Classroom, and that's it right there. And the capability of this almost makes using Classroom with your students worthwhile, even if you don't necessarily plan on using it to post assignments and discussions, but just being able to push sites out to students. That's what this is going to do for you. So let's say I want to push out this particular website to students. What I would do is just click on this extension, right? And students do need to have this extension installed. At cohos.org, all students already have this extension installed, but if you're at another district, you can either have the students add the extension or you can contact your IT team and have them push that out to students. When I click that extension, it shows me what classes that I'm teaching and what classes I'm a student in. And as a teacher, what I can do is within this mock class that I've asked you to join, I click on that, and what I want to do is I want to push to students. Push means I want to send you a website. So this is the site I want to send, and when I press this blue push button, what's going to happen, it might take a few seconds, but that website will push to all student devices that are open. So if the student device is on, the Chrome browser is open, they're going to get that website that you push to them. So maybe there is a research project you're having them work on in class and you have a really nice site for them to look at. Maybe you want them to all watch a certain video or demonstration, or there's a reading that you want them to do. Let's say you're looking at Google Cultural Institute and there's an exhibit you want them to look at, a primary document perhaps. You can send them any website directly to their device. They'll get a notification that you're trying to send it, and then a new tab will open in their browser. And they'll get this. And if you're looking at this in the training today, it does not matter where you are. It only matters that you have the Chrome browser open. Right? And also, what I can do is, instead of push something to students, I can also create an assignment. So if I was looking at a Google Doc worksheet that I just made, maybe access denied. Let's say that I wanted, this. I wanted to create an assignment out of this. All I would do is you fill out this section, and this is basically the same interface that happens in Google Classroom. I even have the ability to say that I can make a copy for each student and I can assign it right from there. So I don't need to go into Google Classroom and add a post. So that makes it easy. From the student perspective, what's nice about this is, let's say that a student is working on a document or they're working on a web page and they want you to see it. I can push that site to you, the teacher, and you can take a look at it for me. All right, so that's just a nice nifty feature of Google Classroom. A couple more tips before we end today. You can add Google Forms directly into Google Classroom. Google Form, one of the nice capabilities it has is you can survey your students, but you can also configure your Google Form to grade student answers. New feature with Google Forms and Google Classroom is that shortly, whatever grade the student gets in the quiz will automatically transfer over to Google Classroom as a grade. Right now, that's not in existence, but within the next couple of weeks, it should be. The best way to attach a Google form is to actually attach the Google Drive file for the form and not the actual link to take the form. The reason why is because if you send the link, the students will take they'll take your survey or they'll take your quiz, and they won't be prompted to go back to Classroom, so you won't know whether they took it or not unless you go into your Google form and you've seen who's done it. If you attach the Google Drive file for the form, Once the student's done with the form, there will be a button that says go back to classroom, and then they have the option to mark that assignment as done. So this is another useful tip. Some people are the opposite of pack rats. They don't like to have a lot of files or folders displaying in their Google Drive. You do not want to delete the folder that Google Classroom creates in your Drive. The reason why is because you will not be able to get it back. So either organize that file, maybe create another folder and move that Google Drive, or that Google Classroom folder into a subfolder so you don't see it if it's bothering you there. But once you delete it, you're going to lose all of that work. And then earlier, I had told you about the new Training Center Hub for Google Classroom. Here's the link again, but it's also on the webinar resource page. This was just created a couple of weeks ago, and it's pretty useful if you want to learn more about Google Classroom, and you can even sign up for updates so as new features are released, you'll be aware of them. Right, and I know that there you'll be able to see how to get started with Google Classroom if you don't feel like this webinar today was enough to get you started. There are lots of teacher-created videos on best practices and quite a few tips. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's session. I'm looking at the Q&A document, and I just see that one question. So I will put some more information on that once this webinar ends. As we wrap up, I'd like to remind you that every resource that we discussed today, as well as others, can be found at bit.ly/CCSD003. Again, this is the page where you're going to find the video webinar, and below you'll see all the session resources, the live chat document, and the evaluation. Just give me a few minutes after this webinar ends, and I will post a link to the session quiz so that you can take that and you can earn a certificate of attendance for today's webinar. Thanks again for spending this beautiful summer afternoon with me. I hope you learned enough to feel comfortable getting started with Google Classroom, and I look forward to having you join me again in the future for other upcoming EdTech webinars. Have a great day.